I'm here today now with Ericka Kopp, who is running for Congress in Virginia. And I always like to just start these by saying, thank you for coming. Thank you for talking to me, just a regular person. We want to kind of change our whole approach to government in the United States. I'm just a regular dad. I'm just a person with regular problems. And it's just a relief to be able to talk to people who are potentially going to be our representatives who address real problems. So I applaud you for running and for talking to me. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me, first of all. And I am also just a regular person. I am a practicing healthcare attorney. I am also a caregiver to my husband, who is a disabled combat veteran from Afghanistan. And like you said, I'm running for Congress in Virginia's first district. I am one of those people who is just stepping up to meet the moment because where we are right now is not where we should be as a nation. And so I've been sick of talking about it. Now I am doing something about it.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thanks for the service for your husband. I'm sure that opens up a lot of issues right now. I know a lot of people who are deeply concerned, particularly with this war, this what feels to me like an unconstitutional war.
Mhm.
And I've been hearing all these cutbacks, all these people that are served and then are left without any resources. Um, Meanwhile, we're dumping all kinds of money in all these places that it's just a complete waste, and we're leaving behind all the people that make this country possible. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. We promise so much to the people who serve our country, and right now we're not seeing any of those promises come to fruition. These people are the ones that defend our freedoms every day, selflessly. They put their entire lives on the line for all of us to live. And they are getting really the short end of the stick. And we thought there would be no more forever wars after the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And now there's this war that we've been in for the past month with no end in sight. And it's shameful.
And I was just writing down somehow the general perception in the United States is a lack of an awareness that the Republican Party consistently abandons the military. They consistently use them, they squeeze them dry, they cut all their benefits, they don't do anything to help them, and they have just absolute contempt for the members of our armed forces. So how do we change the narrative and make people understand that if they want to respect the people that serve, it's time to vote Democrat?
That's such a difficult concept because, I mean, there are so many folks, people that have served, or people who know people who have served, or family members who have served, and they have this linear way of thinking that tends to be conservative. And I really truly don't know why that is. I would love to know more of the psychology about it, but I think it starts with conversations like these, conversations with folks who have served, conversations with people who care for folks who have served, and really to see what is actually happening. Because, I mean, we don't get a whole lot of truth out of this administration as it is. And
Or any,
as you, right.
I would argue.
And as you mentioned, they're cutting things left and right. I mean, for example, my husband is trying to get an MRI. He has a brain injury, and so that is something that it's been a few years since his last one, unlike our president. But he is having such a difficult time getting one on the books. And it just goes to show that the care that veterans are getting is just, it's not care. They're getting a lot of lip service. There are so many tens of thousands of positions at the Veterans Affairs Administration that have been cut. And early last year, there was a report that came out of the Office of the Inspector General showing that one of the most critically lacking positions within all of the VAs nationwide was that of clinical psychology. And for veterans who have PTSD or anxiety or any other kind of mental health issues, clinical psychology is not the place that we need to be lacking.
Mhm. And, I mean, healthcare is a large issue. I mean, the way it's been deplorable, the way Republicans have treated veterans in particular, but the way all citizens are treated I live in a rural area, a different state, but still we're seeing hospitals close. The price of medication is unreasonable. We have our doctors who have to they become frustrated because they have to navigate the healthcare industry and they're not
Mhm.
allowed to perform or ask for the tests that they need to ask for. And at some point, I mean, at some point it's going to stop. What are your solutions for addressing? I guess what I'm getting around to is our solutions for what we should do to address our healthcare issues in this country.
Oh, I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
First and foremost, I think we need universal health care because without it, we're only going to see people continue to forego the care that they need to survive. And with a single payer healthcare system, we're going to eliminate a lot of needless hassle for both the patient and the provider. I can speak to my own healthcare experience around the time that I announced my run for Congress. I was hospitalized for 4 days because of a bulging disc in my neck.
Mm,
And after being in so much pain and the emergency room doctor telling me, oh, you just have a headache, which that's another conversation in and of itself. But when I got out of the hospital, I was met with a letter from my insurance company that said, we're not going to cover you because all you had was a headache. And so that triggered a series of events that was
mm,
a hassle, not just on me, but also on the hospitalist that was caring for me in the hospital to communicate with the insurance company to explain why it was necessary. So if we have a system where there is a single payer system
yeah.
for providers to get paid directly, we eliminate the need for these peer to peer reviews with physicians so that they can focus on caring for their patients. We eliminate the hassle for patients, a lot of whom don't understand or can't separate the health insurance company piece from the doctor piece.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm a healthcare attorney, so I represent healthcare providers for a living. And I mean, you would not believe the amount of complaints that we see against healthcare providers for insurance related issues.
And it's my kids are old enough now where, you don't have that terror of a young parent, but I mean, when they're babies and your back is against the wall economically all the time, and it is just
Mhm,
one of the founding principles of the Republican Party to wield, as a weapon economic terrorism so that we don't have time. You have to have multiple jobs just to survive whenever Republicans are in office. And it's to the point, and I remember, your child would get a fever, your baby, and you have to take him in, but then you're terrified because you don't know if you're gonna get you don't know what it's gonna cost. It could be
right.
$20,000 that you end up having to pay. And it's always like in this era and what happens is some families, they don't take their child in and then that child dies. And I
Mhm,
mean, this everything against this, like this just blatant disrespect for human life that we see out of the Republican Party. They're out there rounding up kids and putting them in concentration camps. They're blowing up schools with little
mhm.
kids in them. They're covering up. I'm giving you a lot to respond to right now as I get on a little bit of a tirade. But I mean, they're covering up for the Epstein class. And it's just at what point, does something happen where we just start choosing the value of human life and, elevating that and making that our ultimate goal instead of increasing our military budget to more than the whole rest of the world pays combined. So, what are your thoughts? I'll give you some time to respond.
Yeah, I mean, I really do think that we're in a crossroads. We are at a point where people see that we cannot live life like this. The United States government is talking about making more cuts after they've already cut nearly $1 trillion out of Medicaid to then fund this illegal, unconstitutional war. I completely agree with you on that. And it is not only a travesty, but it shows how truly shameful it is for this party who controls all levels of government at the federal level, not just Congress between the House and the Senate and the White House, but let's be honest here, the Supreme Court too. We see that their priorities have to do more with things like bombing schools than they do with caring for the people here at home. This was absolutely needless that we went into Iran in the first place. And now it's at the expense even further of the people's health care. And it's truly disgusting.
Yeah, and I mean, what was it? They shut down the government over, what was it, $30 billion to fund healthcare in rural areas, essentially, like, essentially funding mega healthcare, like hospitals for
Mhm,
them. And then now we're in this war, and because they fired every competent member of the military, and they did their white supremacy hires, is what I call them. They want to appoint these just unqualified, incompetent men to every position. And we're seeing boats running into each other because they fired all the air traffic controllers. Planes are crashing into each other. We're seeing our military just take these astounding, terrible, tragic losses. And it's just my heart goes out to all the people that have, on good faith, their children went to the military. And this
mhm,
this we allowed this level of incompetence to be put in control, just this ceaseless sacrifice of our kids
right.
for what? And I guess, yeah, it just becomes very frustrating. I'll let you respond.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, something that my husband has said so often over the course of the last little over a year, this is not the America I fought for. And like it gives me chills repeating that because it's so accurate. I mean, people ever since I mean, for me, ever since 9/11, I was in 4th grade. That was really, truly the first time when I could understand that people were that was their experience, that was their why of why they were going and enlisting in the military after they left high school. And somebody just put it in the comments, they haven't passed an
Yeah.
audit in 9 years. It's true. We are now a nation with a military run by the most unfit person. And so we're going to see a lot of things about his unfitness coming up in the people that he puts in place. And uh, I just, I shake my head because we have come so far from the American dream, the American ideal, whatever we want to call it, the America that we all once knew. We are so far away from that at this point now.
You know what? And it's what's astonishing is, like, as I sit here talking to you, and I think you're wonderful, and but I
Thank
just
you.
like, as what's going through my head is we haven't even started talking about all the atrocities. I mean,
Yeah.
isn't that it's like I haven't even got into this. My wife is an immigrant, and so it's like, and this is goes back the last 10 years. I'm just getting sick and tired of having people attack and promote hate speech against my wife, against my kids. And then we're looking at, like, we don't know who these ICE agents are. I always say, what assurance do we have that they aren't hiring rapists, that they aren't hiring child rapists? We
Mhm.
don't have an assurance for that because they don't tell us who they are. And
Right.
we know that this administration has pardoned insurrectionists, and a lot of these insurrectionists seem to think that was a pardon for any criminality for the whole rest of their life. Many of them have gone on to be arrested again.
Mhm.
I don't like the idea of my here's the thing, I don't like the idea of my taxpayer dollars going to child rapists to
That
fund
part.
their activities. And we're been hearing about these concentration camps they're building. There have been stories of children getting raped in these concentration camps,
Mhm.
and our taxpayer dollars are funding that. And it's kind of hard to imagine, well, the level to which the American public is tolerating this. So, what are your thoughts there?
I have so many thoughts. I
Good.
mean, I completely agree that the way that we have this nameless, faceless, armed Gestapo running around the streets, kidnapping people off the streets is atrocious. And not only do I believe that we should abolish ICE, but all of the people who have been ICE agents over the past year, I
Yeah.
think they should be prosecuted. Um, and like another thing, it goes back to look at who's at the top, look at who is getting these folks to come and join ICE. We have one child rapist leading an army of them. And I should qualify that. I don't know that all of them are, but again, to your point, we really truly don't know who is in ICE. But we have also seen the reports come out of Dilley, as you mentioned, that
Yes.
there are children who are becoming pregnant while in these concentration camps. And the only people who could be responsible for that are the agents themselves. I mean, I look at ICE as a terrorist organization, a domestic terrorist organization. And speaking as somebody who has an immediate family member who is an immigrant, I have a parent who immigrated to this country and they're brown, they have an accent. I am constantly terrified for my parent just being at work or going to the grocery store because we never really know who's going to be coming in around her. We never know who these people are. And now that they're in airports, allegedly helping
Yes.
TSA, the idea that they might be stationed outside of polling places, they have got to go.
Yes. Um, there's another wonderful creator here on Substack named Jed and Bud who has done a lot of work to expose the corruption of Border Patrol and ICE. It's ongoing. It has gone back to the inception. And one of Jen Bud's proposals is that we need to create a DNA database. And, we should collect all the samples from all the rape kits, and anybody who wants the privilege of being in law enforcement or in politics should have to submit their DNA and have it checked against that database because we clearly have a pedophile problem within positions of power in the United States. Otherwise, they would have made some arrests because these Epstein files, they've made not one arrest regarding the Epstein files. And that goes back several administrations, which is another problem. So, what is your thought about something like Jen Bud's idea for a DNA database? You can think
I
about it if it's something you haven't heard about before, but
It's
it's yeah.
not. It's not something that I've heard about. And I like the concept. I like the idea. My only question is, at what point are we concerned with privacy? But at the same time, they do have to submit to a background check, or at least they're
Yeah.
supposed to. In normal times,
Fingerprints?
they're
Yeah.
supposed to. Um, it is a it's a tough question. Would I be opposed to it for myself? No,
Well, I
because
wanna just say I think that's a very fair response for something that is kind of a big question. It's like, not in a it's like, that's interesting. There are potential and it's true, there are, but anything that's a complex idea, like progressive idea moving forward, yeah, there's gonna be things we're gonna have to fix along the way. There are some issues with databases that already aren't being compared, and
yeah,
there's a lot of well, we're seeing a lot of laws that are just not being enforced right now too. So,
right.
but I think it might be worthy just to have debates like this just to see who opposes, who strongly opposes such an idea. Because I thought
And
your response was fair.
well, thank you. And maybe for those that really truly strongly oppose this idea, maybe we might want to check their browser history. Sorry, shouldn't have caught you while you were taking a sip.
No, that's yes. I intentionally try to do that with some of my friends, try to get them to spray the camera. I think that's kind of funny. Oh man. Well, I it's an ongoing thing. We wanted to talk about your redistricting issues you're facing there in Virginia. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about those?
Well, I do think that a picture is worth a thousand words. So I have some with me. This one is a little older. So it's got former President Obama,
Okay.
and alleging that he is against this redistricting effort. Meanwhile, he is on ads promoting it.
Yeah.
Hey, District 3 neighbor. Hi, how you doing? And then just today, we got a new one in the mail. This one's even worse.
Yeah. And these are somebody was telling me about these. Who is it supposedly sponsored by? Who does it say on there? Yeah.
Paid for by Justice for Democracy PAC.
Does
Now
that
I did a
exist? Oh yeah, go
It
ahead.
does. Okay, but I did a little digging and I found out where the most recent contributions came from. And one of the more recent contributions is from, I'm going to butcher the name now. It's like Par Altera or Pan Altera Consulting, some name like that, very obscure. Anyways, the organization that made this $2.5 million contribution to the Justice for Democracy PAC is founded in part by Peter Thiel.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's propaganda. I mean,
It
at
is.
some point, at what point is it a federal offense to put something like that in the mail?
Right. Right. And I don't have an answer for that. When I first saw this, I was like, well, I don't think the family of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is going to be too thrilled with his image and likeness being used about something that is very obviously propaganda.
Yeah. And I've regularly received things in the mail that looked like ballots, that looked like whatnot, and it doesn't fool me, but there are a lot of people that influences, and that is election interference when you're doing things like that. I think,
Yeah.
and that brings me to another topic that I think is very important. I would like to see Democrats do more to defend our vote, and we've seen again and again the fact that the current occupant of the Oval Office was found guilty of 34 counts of business fraud related to election interference. He was under indictment for election interference in 2020.
Mhm.
And yet we're supposed to just say, okay, 2024, he did everything fine and and it's just like they are still doing recounts of 2020. They're still demanding. They are currently engaged. The Republicans are currently engaged in the SAVE Act, which is vote suppression. They
Yes.
purge voting rolls. They do this misdirection like these flyers. I think our Democratic Party needs to be more aggressive in combating voter fraud, demanding recounts, demanding forensic audits. What's your thought there?
I completely agree. I mean, I hate how this administration has turned me into a little bit of a conspiracy theorist, and I'm sure that I'm not alone in saying that.
Well, it's just a
But
theory at this point because we haven't investigated, right? It's just a
well,
theory. Yeah,
I mean, there are some nonprofits that have looked into the results of the 2024 election, and
yeah.
they have seen that there are signs of vote manipulation. And that is pretty consistent with what I think happened. I mean, we can talk about Michigan, we can talk about Nevada, we can talk about Pennsylvania. I would like to see there be a recount of the 2024 election.
Yeah, and right-wing groups, if you ever have looked into it, right-wing groups are buying up all the tabulation machines,
Mhm.
and it's just there's things and what really bothers me and yeah, like I said, it's only a conspiracy theory after you've had a theory and disproven it and people still believe it. But we're still at that part of collecting evidence and doing the examination. We haven't had the proof yet. And it just seems like we do need a complete overhaul because this is a big country. It's very
Right.
complex. And just the assumption and every election is fine and there's no issues and that somehow it's wrong of us to ask questions and ask for assurances. Because I think it leaves a lot of voters disheartened, because we don't
Yeah.
look at the Democrats and see them as people who are standing up. They are quick to blame us if they
Mhm.
don't win. Oh, the voters didn't come out for us. But I like to see as a significant amount of effort showing that they stand for to ensure all votes are counted too.
I completely agree. And I mean, in addition to all of that, we have seen statements made by Elon Musk, statements
Yeah.
made by Donald Trump himself that suggest that there was some foul play in the 2024 election. Meanwhile, there has been zero evidence that he put forth about the 2020 election. He himself has run off out the mouth about 2024. So I think with those statements alone, those could be used against him as evidence in a trial. I'll just say that.
Wouldn't it be nice to have a trial? So are you for sure then with this redistricting issue hanging over your head? Is it surely going to be, you know what district you're going to be in, or is there still some doubt?
So I what we're saying is that we will let the people decide first, and then we will make a decision about where we're going to go after that. We don't want to leave anyone hanging out to dry or anything like that. So unless and until the people say otherwise, and then the Supreme Court of Virginia upholds it after, which is another story a little bit, we
Wow.
are committed to the people of the first district as it stands today.
Okay. And how many people are running in your district for this position?
In the Democratic primary,
Yes.
there are 8 of us,
8 of
myself
you.
included. Mhm.
And see, this is actually it heartens me because I've often said, I mean, these primaries are wonderful, and that's why again I thank you for running just for being in the primary, and it's actually in it's actually against what the DNC generally wants. They don't like these primaries. And
Mhm.
the way I look at it is the people deserve a robust primary. They deserve to have multiple candidates canvassing the district, getting people excited about the votes, educating them on what's at stake and what's going to happen. And it's also primaries are a great place for name recognition, where you can build your name recognition, where even if then whoever wins the primary, if you win it, great. But if not, there are always other elections, there are always other positions. And it's important just to have this experience. So I've been talking to a lot of candidates, and a lot of them tell me that they get pressure from establishment Democrats to drop out of the primary. Now, is that something that you've experienced or heard about? Curious to hear.
I've heard about it in my race. I have not personally experienced it. Um, I think that as it relates to my own campaign, people don't really take me seriously. And I will use that to my advantage and come in and say, okay, we're going to get a massive ground game going, and then we will mobilize the people. But I know that there was a candidate in my race who dropped out earlier this year, and one of the reasons that she cited for dropping out was pressure from the party to drop out because the national party, the DNC, has their candidate in my race, as they do with a lot of other flippable districts, which ours is. And they were essentially threatening her.
Yeah. And the extremely frustrating thing about this, and this is where I go back to our legacy media. We are in new media now. People are fed up with the legacy media. They're in places like Substack, they're in different places. And in historically, and I've had a lot of candidates say, nobody covers the primaries. So they're just like,
Mhm.
hey, I'm happy to have a chance to talk to you. But everybody in the chat here needs to understand this, where they deliberately water it down. And then we see the same groups sponsoring both primary candidates, and then they go and they get to the general, which creates the illusion of a choice because it's a lot easier to buy both candidates in the primaries, pressure everybody else to leave. And then whether you vote for Democrat or Republican, you're getting the same thing. So
Right.
it's just this idea of promoting these primary candidates, talking to them, getting the word out there, and getting people interested in these primaries. I mean, we can't emphasize enough. The
Yeah,
general doesn't matter. The primary is where we get to determine what our country's going to look like. We can
exactly.
transform the government before the general election even happens.
Right. And I just want to address one question that I saw come through the chat
Mhm.
about who the DNC's pick is in my race. And I can tell you that the DCCC has announced in their red to blue program that their pick in this race is Shannon Taylor.
Well, we got to find out what the people's pick is because that's the only one that matters, and that's what I keep saying. That same
Exactly.
thing's happening in my district. I don't want Washington D.C. to determine who represents my district, and so it's so
Exactly.
important for you to be out there. Let's talk about education. That's another thing. I'm an educator. I have kids, and the way I look at it, if we're going to spend all this money on the military, some of that money should go to education. I mean, who's going to win the battle of the scientists, And somehow that drops off the page. It's like we can't have an unlimited budget for education. So what's your thoughts there?
I think the way that our education system is today, particularly as it relates to student loans, it's untenable. And I applaud you for being an educator, first
Thank you.
off.
Thank you. That's very nice of you.
In my perfect world, if I were in Congress tomorrow, what I would want to do and what I would try to get other Dems on board to do with me is to establish a nationwide free public college and university system that it would include free community college and free trade school, because it is not fair to anyone that we sideline all of these students with so much crippling debt, even from the interest alone. I mean, put aside the principal balance, the interest is absolutely crushing. I'm going to be paying off my own student loans from undergraduate and law school for a long time to come. And the way that we are seeing college tuition go up every year and the amount of student loans that students can take out go down every year, we're going to get to a point where students can't afford to attend higher education. And that serves no one.
Yeah. And it's what's stunning to me too is my daughter is in a sophomore in high school, and I'm always, encouraging her to take all these, whatever college credit classes they offer. And she
Mhm.
says to me, it's like, she says, it feels like we're cheating the system. And I'm like, yeah, you have to cheat the system. But it's also at the point now where my wife got her degree in Peru, an immigrant from Peru. Um, very inexpensively. And it doesn't make sense as we look at this. It's like we're already making plans to study abroad. It's like if you can get a degree for no money. So more people are going to see this. And, we're
Mhm.
going to see enrollments decline. Our whole university system is going to collapse. I mean, if it's not affordable. And I don't know what kind of economic impact that'll have. But when we're on this path, which will lead to destruction of an entire system, I mean, clearly something has to change. I think your proposals are great, but any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just want to address something that I saw come through the chat a second ago about what students can take out in student loans anymore. And I I know that from one of my very good friends who has a daughter who's a senior in high school and preparing to go to college. She is talking about how much she is allowed to take out for her freshman year. And the amount of student loans that she can take out for first year of college is $5,000, which yeah, what is that gonna do? Like,
Yeah.
if you think about that in terms of what college costs for a year, which could be $50,000 at this point for 1 year, depending on where you go,
Yeah.
I mean, it's outrageous. They're pushing students into private student loans, predatory loans, to be able to exploit them, and it's not doing anyone any good.
Is this a new development too with all the, destruction that's been going on? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that gets the headlines, but this malicious regime is destroying absolutely everything, so
They truly are. I don't know if it has anything to do with the changes that have come up from last year. Could it be? It's possible. Um, I don't know what it was before the big, I'm not going to call it by its actual name, bill. But my goodness, it's really destroying the futures for a lot of kids who want to come out of poverty through higher education.
yeah. Well, I know too that you're this is heavy stuff. We got so
Yeah.
much stuff. It's like everything is so on. But I know you're one of the courage candidates, so maybe tell
Yes,
us
I
a little
am.
bit more about that.
Happy to. So I am one of now we're over 135 courage candidates from over 35 states across the country. And we came together around a mission of impeaching Donald Trump on day one in office. So for us House candidates, filing articles of impeachment on day one. For Senate candidates, committing to removal. And we have grown exponentially since the first set of the candidate cohort. And now our message is expanding to include the services that we will all work towards as a voting bloc in Congress that we will call ourselves the Courage Caucus. And that includes things like universal health care. It includes abolishing ICE. And what we do is we put policies forward to the entire group. And when we have two-thirds agreement from all of the Courage candidates, then those become official policies of the Courage Caucus.
That's fantastic. I guess we inadvertently pivoted to something positive, and so I'm happy about that because
Yeah.
I was starting to get depressed. But, one of the things I think is one of the big issues is this just absence of a response, whether it's social media, radio, the news, everything is hate propaganda, and,
Mhm.
we haven't seen out of the Democrats much of a willingness out of our establishment. Democrats, I call them blue MAGA because we
Mhm.
have these guys that vote. We had Cuellar voted for the SAVE Act. I mean,
Yeah.
Fetterman voted to confirm Mark Wayne Mullen. And so we've got openly racist Democrats. And I mean,
Mhm.
when that kind of gets lost when we start talking about the big tent thing, we got to clean some house among the Democrats. And but one of the things we've seen is the right, they hired lawyers to make their Project 2025. They have their think tanks, and we don't seem to have a humanitarian think tank. I think it's starting to develop, and what you're talking about, I think with the group like the Courage candidates, David Hogue's doing great work with the Leaders We Deserve, but we need to see more of an emphasis, from the Democrats in office to fund, rational thought and to ensure platforms aren't dominated by these hostile algorithms that only promote hate content and they instead start promoting content of merit. So I guess maybe what I'm getting around to is how do you feel about uh regulating algorithms so that, they don't just promote, to address the mental health crisis of our children because all they do is doom scroll all day. What are your thoughts about there and how we can win the messaging war in other ways?
Well, first, I think we need to get billionaires out of controlling social media platforms because with X owned by Elon Musk, Threads, Instagram, Facebook owned by Zuckerberg, and TikTok now owned by Larry Ellison, there is certainly a bias around what goes into social media. And we've seen how harmful social media is on particularly youth. There have been judgments against social media platforms just in the last 2 weeks out of state courts
Yeah.
issuing millions of dollars in verdicts against these giants because they're not doing enough. And I agree that they're not doing enough. I would love to establish an agency through an act of Congress that would regulate not just social media, but also AI. It would I would like for it to regulate data centers as well at the federal level because that's something that's a huge problem in Virginia as a whole. I'm not sure if you've heard the term data center alley, but
Mhm.
that would be okay. So in Virginia, Loudoun County specifically, which happens to be where my husband was born and raised, we have what is called data center alley, where it is like 70%, I think is the statistic I read, 70% of data centers are located there. We have in Virginia more data centers than anywhere in the world. And that number of data centers is only trying to increase. It is a rapidly expanding issue. The General Assembly is right now trying to tackle it in terms of taxation on data centers, which that is still up in the air.
Mhm.
Um, but this is not a problem that is uniquely Virginian. We're seeing data centers across the United States, and we know that with them comes environmental pollution, noise pollution. We know that they use an unbelievable amount of water to cool their systems because nobody cares enough to have a design that would enable them using less water. And so I think there needs to be a baseline level of regulation at the federal level so that we can protect resources that our communities need.
Absolutely. I think and Lefty Prof in the chat has mentioned, their, electricity bills tripled, and
Yes.
this brings me to an issue that I call our billionaire welfare. I
Mhm.
mean, a lot of people have been talking about taxing the billionaires, and I say, "Well, we don't even have to do that. Let's just stop giving them billions of dollars of free taxpayer money in the form of subsidies and bailouts and PPP loans, and when their businesses fail, why is it constantly the working class that has to bail them out? It's like when
Right.
I have troubles, I have to mortgage my assets or sell them in order to,
Mhm.
but billionaires are exempt from that. And yeah, all the electricity bills are going up for all the regular working class people, and it just benefits the billionaires that own these data centers. So, what are your thoughts on that?
I do still think we need to tax the rich. I'll put that out there first. But in addition to that, yes, data centers should not be getting tax breaks. Billionaires should not be getting tax breaks.
Or
Jeff
subsidies?
Bezos
Yeah.
or subsidies. Jeff Bezos should not be getting a child tax credit because he only gets a certain amount of income from Amazon. Like, there are so many loopholes. There are so many loopholes that billionaires
Yeah.
are taking advantage of. And I think we need to close those loopholes. I think we need to tax the rich. And I think we need to increase enforcement so that the IRS can come after people and corporations, quite frankly, who aren't paying their fair share.
Yeah, and this is another part of the messaging issues and deficiencies because too many of the blue mega establishment Democrats, they're afraid to make these kind of statements. They're afraid to be critical of ICE because they sound like they're anti-law enforcement. But we need to win this battle about the privatization tax, which nobody ever seems to talk about. The
Mm,
right always wants to privatize all these services, and the only consequence of that is we get less of a service and we end up paying more for those type of things. We've seen attacks on the
yep,
post office, you're seeing it, and they wanna defund education, and it's just at some point, it's like this idea that we can't have a government that actually works for the people. Like, it's so hardwired, and a lot of that goes upriver to the point where we fail on messaging. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I'll add to that too. We're seeing that with the VA. We have seen that they want to make it non-functional. They're doing all of these cuts so that they can make it so that the VA doesn't work, so that they can then privatize it.
Yeah.
And I think we need to follow the money on this because if we look at who these companies are that are donating to political causes and political candidates, they're overwhelmingly donating to Republican candidates. And
Yes.
then they are getting all of these benefits and almost kickbacks, if you will, from these Republican politicians. And then the cycle continues. I mean, we're seeing this so plain as day with the private prison system. We're seeing how much they're benefiting at this point, and overwhelmingly they donated to Republican politicians.
Yeah, and at some point, people have to recognize that the Republican Party runs on the concept that government can't work, and then when they get into the office, they sabotage. They prove them. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and, that seems like a pretty strong message that our Democrats can run on, and for some reason, it's like through decorum or whatever, but it seems like we often abdicate the arguments that are most effective. I want to give you a moment though, and just your webpage for people that want to donate and find you and find out more about you. Go ahead and offer that.
Yes, please and thank you. My website is Ericka Kopp, that's ERICKAKOPP.com. So it should be fairly easy to find if you put that in your browser. You can find me on social media. I'm at EK, the number for VA, everywhere except X because I don't do Twitter anymore. And then Blue Sky is at erickakopp.com. And real quick, too, I wanted to address a question I believe might have been from Lefty Prof about where the Courage Caucus stands on Citizens United. That is currently being voted on, but I think for the most part, everyone that is a member of the Courage candidates, we're all against Citizens United. And I can speak for myself personally. I have been against that case ever since I learned about it in law school. I believe it was wrongly decided from jump, and I think it has contributed to a lot of what we're seeing today with a lot of our dark money in politics. And so I want to see it gone.
Excellent. Yeah, Kira over there at the Citizens Impeachment Group is fantastic too.
Yes.
And let me you're gonna have to tell me how you think this is gonna go, because obviously right now it's the primaries. People want to talk about the midterms. It's not the midterms. The primaries are
Right.
the thing. And in addition to that, we're building. It's astonishingly fast. A year ago, we didn't have any of this connection that we do now. It's been a master course or a PhD level course in corruption, like the
Right.
reality of the corruption of the world. I wasn't doing this. I was just writing fantasy stories for my kids, And it's
Yeah.
just sort of like, well, now we're stuck fighting fascism for a couple years, I guess. And but I do see, and people like you, people like Kira, and all the brilliant people I've talked to in the chat who are committed and seem to understand now this need for community, which again and again comes around to that when we have an organization, a human focused organization that will move forward and, provide all these things that have been absent in this country since its inception, essentially. I'm just
Mhm.
kind of curious how you see this battle playing out, both in the short term and in the longer term as we make progress and we suffer more losses, which is inevitable too.
Yeah. My hope is that we see more of the upsets that we've seen, particularly in Florida, now that Palm Beach is represented by a female Democrat in the state
Yeah.
government. That is very exciting. Seeing all of these places that were historically very red areas now flip blue, that's giving me a lot of hope. And I hope that we see more of the progressive voices come through the fold. I hope that we see more candidates who will fight for impeachment, candidates who will fight for the people that come up out of the primary and then win the general. Because if it's anything like, you know, all of the all of the blue wave that we've seen already, we're going to see a lot of seats flip. And I just hope that once these Democrats get into power, whether it's me, whether it's somebody else in my race, I hope that we use the power that we have to bring good to the people because
Yeah.
truly that's why I'm running. And I hope that other people can say that that's why they're running. And if not, then maybe we need to have a discussion about the people that are running for
Yeah.
office.
Well, I think that's super important, and I always like to emphasize, in 2020, the voters gave the Democrats all the power they needed to stop this. They had control of everything, and yet here we are, and so that's why I feel we need new candidates, candidates like you with a new attitude. An ongoing issue I find is it's not enough, I don't think, for the Democrats to say they're anti-racist. They have to be actively anti-racist.
Yes.
We have people like, they're still listening every time James Carville comes on the TV. In my opinion, he's a racist. He's the one who told Obama to go take a toke on a crack pipe. And we can't have and he's still regarded, you see his face, and it goes out into mailers. And the Democrats don't seem to understand that they drive away a significant amount of their base when they're listening to folks like him. And I think it's that contingent within the DNC, which counseled Mark Elias to not file challenge to the 2024 election. And I don't know if that was ignorance or deliberate sabotage because they
Yeah.
didn't like the candidate. So, what is your thoughts about being actively anti-racist?
I think it's absolutely necessary, not just speaking as a biracial woman, but speaking as a person who lives in this world. And we see that we have a racist rapist as the president of the United States. We need to not just be ourselves anti racist, but we need to actively oppose anything that is racist in our society today because unless we do that, we're going to see more white supremacists roaming the streets. We're going to see more neo Nazis like what we had here in just, an hour away from me in Charlottesville in 2017. And so we need to be as loud as we possibly can. And yes, Natasha, speak out about it all of the time. These people need to go back and crawl back under the rock from which they came because it is not okay in 2026 and they need to hear about it.
Yeah, and I always say America teaches history like it's the redacted Epstein files. I mean, there's so
Mhm.
much that's censored, and every single time we have a school shooting, that's a white supremacy shooting. It's always you always can find ties to white supremacy. The KKK has never been designated as a domestic terrorist organization, and they've been so emboldened in the last couple of years, especially with this current regime, and yet so many people just have their head in the sand. They don't want to talk about it. I think it is time for an accounting where we start holding. I mean, you got people openly marching in the street, showing their white supremacy tattoos,
Mhm.
their white supremacy symbols. It's hate. And yeah, what are your thoughts? What should we do about
So I work in the capital city of Virginia, in Richmond, Virginia, which was also the former capital of the Confederacy.
it? Okay,
And
we know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
I think it goes back a little bit further than the KKK. I think we are seeing a lot of this now because we didn't do anything about Confederates back then. I mean, it wasn't until 2021 that a Robert E. Lee statue came off of Monument Avenue here in the city of Richmond. I was down in Emporia, Virginia, going to court last Monday, and I saw two gigantic Confederate flags. Still, that's not history. That was history for 4 years, and
Mhm.
it ceased to exist before or
Yeah.
after that. It's not history, it's not heritage, it's hate.
Yes.
And unless we treat it that way, this is only going to keep happening over and over and over again under a different name, be it the KKK, be it any insert name of neo-Nazi
Mhm.
organization
The
here,
Heritage
be it
Foundation.
Heritage Foundation, Donald Trump, Stephen Miller. Insert name here of just about anyone in this administration. I mean, we're seeing it today.
We're in sync, Erica. I think this we're doing pretty good. And one of the things though too, I mean, it'd be nice if we taught in history. Those statues, those Confederate statues, they were all put up in the 20s when the
Right.
KKK was like 30% of Congress.
Mhm.
It's not history because like you said, it was 4 years. Somebody said like Star Trek Voyager was on TV for longer than the Confederacy. It's just
Yeah.
but it's just all that that toxic fundamental sin of this country that has never been addressed. All right, well, let's move it on. What are your thoughts on reparations?
I think we need them. I think the only way that we can I think the only way that we can really atone for how people of color have been treated in this nation is not just to designate their oppressors as domestic terrorists, but to then go and compensate the people who were oppressed by those different regimes. I'll give you an example. I went to the University of Richmond School of Law, which again in the capital, former capital city of the Confederacy. And during, well, I think it was just after the summer of 2020, there was a new building that was being created, being installed, and one of the installations that was going to be in the building, it was supposedly an homage to the people that the person named on the building had owned as slaves. And we need to get out of thinking that putting up a plaque of somebody who was owned by another person is A, appropriate, and B, enough. It's not. It's really, truly not. We need to designate, we need to call it for what it is. And then we need to put our money where our mouth is and truly atone for the sins of the past, which we've never done. And I think it goes beyond what just owning people. I think it goes also to what we've seen with the governments going through and bulldozing communities of people of color and particularly Black people that they've never seen any of their money or their hard earned labor come back to them. And I think those people need to be compensated for their losses as well.
Absolutely. It's this white supremacy mindset that is a bully mindset, and it
Mhm.
justifies bullies and it opens all the obstacles, all the pathway, makes a pipeline so the biggest bully can go from the holy crowd out of right to the White House. All of us
Yep.
have to pay the bills. And it's why these bullies are cowards. That's why we spend so much on our military because they don't want to go into a fight that they think they might possibly lose. Yeah, and I think the American people are finally starting to see it because it exists in shadow and exists because we've been conditioned not to talk about it. So
Mhm.
I applaud you for the things you're saying now and having the courage to speak out about these things. Um, boy, we covered a lot of ground. I want to just give you some more time. Anything else you kind of want to add? You want to bring in that's important to you?
Sure. Yeah. I did see a question come through a little while ago. There was a question about whether West Point is in the district, and the answer to that is yes. West Point, Virginia, is a part of the first district as it exists today, and beautiful area. I was just out there passing through on the way to Gloucester for the Daffodil Festival.
Wonderful. My friend Natasha's been here in the chat. We'll have to have you on for a chat with Natasha as well.
Would love to.
Oh, yes. And let's have some just final thoughts about community building, other things people can do to support you. I mean, all obviously through financial support is always big, but other ways because everybody is facing economic terrorism right now, and every little bit, every contribution matters. So tell us.
It does indeed. Every contribution matters. And it's not just about money. You can help us out for free by following us on social media, sharing our message out, helping us get into more screens, helping us get in front of more eyeballs. That is a big help. We do also have a tab on our website that is called 10 Actions, and that really should be amended because it should be more like 15 at this point. With every in person event that we do, we also do a food drive. So that goes to benefit a local food bank, specifically for the Virginia folks in the room right now. It goes to Feed More of Central Virginia. That is an organization that is very near and dear to my heart. I have volunteered there twice in the last year. And so make a donation to your local food bank. Or if you know somebody that needs a meal, donate to them. Or if you are a pet person like I am, I'm a dog mom, donate to your local animal shelter.
Mm.
Speaking of, as if on
Oh,
cue. Okay.
yeah. That's a
Okay.
nice way to kind of start wrapping. Let's bring the oh, there we go. Oh my gosh, it reminds me of my boy. Yeah.
So this is my girl. She's still a puppy, so she's a little teethy, but,
Yeah.
she is a rescue. She is a pocket
Yes.
kitty. Her government name that she oh,
Oh,
okay,
there we
okay.
go.
She's about
There
to eat
goes
my
the
AirPod,
there
but
goes
that's
the
okay.
earbuds, yeah.
She came with the name Christmas, which was funny because we got her on December 26th. That was the name that was chosen for her by the rescue. We had nothing to do with that, and we actually call her Bumpy because she is such a speed bump. She will put herself right in front of your feet and stay there. But
Oh.
she's a good girl.
Getting a dog right now, they're depression absorbers, and I think
Yeah.
everybody could get one. I have my daughters are in high school and in middle school, and it's just like the dog they can come home after a hard day, the dog just takes the hard energy. So, I mean, everybody I've
Yes.
noticed in this last couple years, we're all with our backs against the wall. We're all feeling that the the stress and the frustration and the fear of what we're going through right now. Somebody was suggesting in one of these other chats, go have parties where you make protest signs together, and it's so
Yes.
yes, anything you can do for community is great, and enjoying these chats is great. This has been pretty fun. I'm winding down. One last time, why don't you give us your final thoughts, and again, your webpage where people can find you?
Absolutely. I really appreciate y'all being in here. Thank you so much for having me on, Walter. This has been phenomenal. Today is actually my late father's birthday, and
Oh,
so having such a lovely conversation. I really appreciate you so much. And you can find me again, erickakopp.com, ERICKAKOPP. You can get to all of our socials there, but if you need the info, it is EK, the number 4 VA on every page except for X and Blue Sky. Blue Sky, I am at erickakopp.com.
okay. And I love what you said. And I have daughters too, and I'll just say from the perspective of a dad, there's no greater tribute you could offer to him than just being a strong woman, a fighter like you are, clearly, a person of integrity. And I think to honor your dad this way on his birthday, I just think that's fantastic. And we're getting a lot of
Yeah.
hearts for that. I just think it's
Yeah.
wonderful. So
And I'll throw a little, interesting coincidence out there too. My father's middle name was Walter.
that's the universe. That's the
Mhm.
universe coming and telling us that victory is ours and we're going to take our country back. It is. I guarantee
Yes.
it. Well, I love this. This has been wonderful. I was wondering, I'm exhausted, so I'm glad this actually went really well today. I'm like, the flow was nice. I'm just like, I guess I'm just operating on
Yeah.
autopilot. It's fantastic. You'll get the replay. I hope everybody in the chat shares the replay. We can take clips from the replays, share them on your socials. You'll get a copy of it in your drafts. But yeah, I hope to talk to you again, bring you back on, and we'll keep her going.
Anytime.
We'll keep these spreading this message, educating the public, and we're gonna get our country back. Is what's gonna happen.
100%. And we're going to do it together. So I so appreciate you having me on. This was phenomenal. And really, anytime, I'd be
Awesome.
happy to come back.
Okay, perfect. Love to you. Love to everybody in the chat. We'll let it go now. You have a great
Thank you all so
weekend.
much. You
Okay.
too. Take care.
Yep. Bye bye.